Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel and to Bookmas. I am super excited but also kind of nervous because today we're going to be setting up my 2025 book journal, and this is my first time ever doing a video like this where I'll be attempting to record and show you me actually setting it up. So hopefully everything goes well. I used to bullet journal and be super into this stuff, so I feel like I am living out my old Amanda Rachel Lee dreams. So I think this is going to be really fun. I want to start off by doing a quick flip through of my 2024 journal just so that you can see what my yearly spreads look like at the end of the year, and we will go over if I'm keeping a spread, changing it, or getting rid of it altogether. Before we get started, I wanted to mention something really quick about this journal. Typically, I've only used Notebook Therapy and Archer and Olive journals in the past, and I really love their journals. I highly recommend them. But for some reason this year I was like, I want to try something different and give a different brand a chance, which is how we ended up here. And I will say I love the cover, but I got sucked into Paper. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it, but their website, they have some of the most beautiful covers. I love their designs. And as soon as it arrived, I realized I made a huge mistake because I typically buy from the same places. I never am checking the GSM or the paperweight before buying journals. I just trust that they're going to be thick enough. I got this one and I was like, whoa, first off, it's very thin overall, but I opened it up and the paper is very thin. So I am definitely a little bit nervous and concerned about how this is going to go. I feel like on camera you won't really be able to see it, but I did some tests in the back and the markers definitely bleed through a bit. So I feel like this could get kind of messy looking, but I'm really going to try and just not let it bother me. I made a mistake, but I'm not going to go out and buy a new one or anything. I'm just going to use this one, and if things bleed through, they bleed through. But I just wanted to put that out there. I know I haven't set it up yet, but as of right now, I would not recommend this for a book journal, a bullet journal, anything like that. I think I'm definitely going to stick to Archer and Olive or Notebook Therapy in the future, and you live and you learn. With that out of the way, let's just go ahead and start with my 2024 flip through. So here's a quick look at my 2024 journal. As a quick side note, I don't know why, but some of these clips are not the most in focus. It just seems to be the 2024 flip through. It seems to get so much better when I get to my actual 2025 setup. So please bear with me. I'm sorry, I don't know why they got out of focus. But first we have my title page, and these caused me so much anxiety. I actually hate setting up title pages. It just feels like so much pressure, and I never really love how they turn out. I actually just decided not to do one at all in my 2025 journal. Then I have this rating key, which honestly was just kind of for looks. And then I think I was going to put goals or something on the other side, but never got around to it. And I don't use this rating key. I actually don't think it's that cute, so I'm getting rid of it. Then we have my physical TBR, which this was actually just a start of year physical TBR, so I didn't add any books after January 1st. And I love this page. I feel like it's so much fun to fill in a book once I've read it. It just feels like a good accomplishment. So I'm definitely keeping this page, but I am modifying it to be just an ongoing physical TBR as opposed to just a start of year one. Then we have my 24 books to read in 2024, and I'm of course keeping this, but I'm definitely changing it a bit. This year, I don't want to draw out each title as an actual book like I did here. I just want to make it a list, and I actually won't be setting this up with you guys because one, I haven't finalized my list, and two, it's just going to be a straight up list on the left hand side of 25 books, and then I'm just going to glue out pictures of the cover, I think, on the right hand side. So you won't see that today, but I feel like I'm making it super simple, so hopefully you can just visualize what I'm going to be doing. Then we have my reading goal and monthly favorites, and I'm keeping this pretty much exactly as it is. Then we have this reading log on the left hand side where I was going every single day and marking whether I read or not. And I love it in theory, and I feel like it's really cute, but I'm honestly somebody who uses my journal more on a monthly basis than a daily basis, so this was really hard for me to keep up with. And you can see I just totally gave up at the end of November, so I am getting rid of this one. Then we have my genre tracker, which you can see I had to add in this little manga piece here because I started reading that midway through the year. I love this page and I'm going to be keeping it but changing the layout completely. Then we have my series tracker, which 100% is inspired by Rachel Catherine. You'll notice that I mention her a lot. I have taken so much inspiration from her book journals. I think she has the cutest ones. I highly recommend that you go and check out her videos. I have a few things where I got inspiration from her, and then a few like this one where I literally just copied it pretty much exactly like it is in hers onto mine. I love this series tracker and I'm going to be keeping it but changing it just slightly. Then we have my books read in 2024, and I love this page. I love the Dutch door in the middle, and I'm going to be keeping this pretty much exactly as it is. Then I have this Sarah J. Maas checklist because I'm trying to get through all of her series, and I'm obviously not doing a great job because I've only read 2 so far, but I think I'm going to be transferring this exactly as is into my journal. Same thing with this Shadowhunters checklist. I won't be showing you, but I do plan on transferring it to my new journal. Then I have this Kindle Unlimited page, and the idea I think was just to write out books that I know are on Kindle Unlimited had in case I wanted a Kindle read and I wanted to reference this and pick something, but I just didn't really use it. I feel like it was kind of useless because it's pretty easy to just go on my Kindle and see what's available. And also the titles that they have change, so I just didn't end up using it, but I will be replacing it with something kind of similar. Then I have my reading bucket list, which is another one that is totally inspired by Rachel Catherine. This has been so much fun. I really enjoy it, but I'm going to be replacing it with a different challenge. Then we have my monthly stats, which again is a Rachel Catherine spread. I love this one, and I'm going to be keeping it pretty much exactly as is. I just might change a couple of the categories that I'm tracking. Now for my new journal, which like I said, the cover is really pretty. I do love it, but here's where you can see I did the test pages and stuff is definitely bleeding through. Even this light blue color, you can still see it through the next page. So I was definitely pretty nervous, but here I am setting up my reading goal and my monthly favorites, which like I said, this is exactly like it was last year. I just maybe changed up the colors a little bit. My reading goal is 80 books again, so I just made 80 of these little squares, and it's definitely very tedious, but it's also just a very easy spread to set up. And then my monthly favorites, I just have 12 spaces that are about the size of a book cover, and at the end of every month I print out a picture of the cover of my favorite book. So right now these look kind of boring, but as the year goes on they get much more colorful and fun. I feel like that's the case with a lot of these. Moving on to my monthly reads and my genre tracker, I actually pre-made these headers and cut out each individual letter, which was definitely tedious. It was a bit of a pain, but it was so worth it. I feel like the reason I did it was because I was really concerned about all of my headers kind of blurring together because of the bleeding. So instead of writing all my headers directly in the journal, I had some of these that I just glued in, and I feel like it was definitely worth all the extra work. Even once I went to actually glue them in, I feel like it was more difficult than just writing it out. It was kind of a pain to arrange them and then glue each one individually, but I have no regrets. I'm really glad that I did it this way. And this monthly reads page is actually new for me. These are both basically just simple bar graphs. I have a row for each month, and as I read a book, I'll just fill in one column. So I think it'll be really fun and easy to visualize how many books I read each month at the end of the year. And my genre tracker is basically the same thing, except for genres like fantasy and romance that I feel like I read the most of, I gave them a whole lot more space, and then things like nonfiction, which I don't read a whole lot of, I gave that a pretty small space, just so that hopefully I don't run out of room at the end of the year. Next, I'm going to be doing a couple of Dutch door spreads, so I wanted a little bit more sturdiness, so I actually glued these next two pieces of paper together, and not only did it make the paper a little thicker, but it also helped to hide the bleed through. This one is going to be a double Dutch door, so I took 2 pages, and the Dutch door is actually pretty simple. You just cut out kind of like a border around it so that you have little flaps or like little mini pages within the same header page, which I might not be describing well, but hopefully once you see it, it'll make sense. I made these pretty simple. I just did a little black border around each page, and this first one is for my physical TBR. This ends up being pretty busy once it's filled in, so I just did a couple of really plain squiggles to add a little bit of color to the background. This is what the double Dutch door looks like, so it just ends up being kind of like 3 pages within one. It almost looks like a little mini book within my journal. The next one I'm going to do is for my books read in 2025, so again I am gluing these next 2 pages together so that it's a little bit sturdier, and then repeating the exact same process, except I'm only doing 1 Dutch door this time instead of 2, because I definitely don't need 3 pages for the amount of books that I'm going to read. This double Dutch door gives me enough room for I think 120 books, which is plenty. There's no way I'm going to read that much. And these both look pretty plain right now, but once they get filled in, they get to be really busy, which is why I did such a plain background. Next is something new, which is my 2025 new releases page. I've always been pretty bad at tracking new releases, so I wanted to stay on top of it this year, and I made this really simple layout. It's just an empty space for each month where I can fill out all of the new releases that I'm looking forward to for that month. I'm really interested to see if I end up using this one a lot or if I kind of forget about it. Obviously, I'm hoping that I end up using it. Next is what's replacing my reading bucket list, which is the A to Z challenge. I have seen so many people do this one, and honestly, I feel like it's one that people do once and then they never do it again because it's pretty hard to complete. The goal is to read a book with a title that starts with each letter of the alphabet. So obviously, I think it's going to be pretty difficult to find something that starts with X and Z, but I just thought, why not? I want to switch it up and do something different. I just made a spot for each letter of the alphabet, and once I read a book for that letter, I will print out a picture of the cover and glue it in. And I made a mistake. I only sketched out 26 spaces, but I was kind of in a flow and I just ended up making 27. So I have an extra one, which I'm going to cover with some stickers later. And again, I had a pre-made header, which I was really happy with. And maybe I'll regret doing this one because it's too challenging, but we'll see. I just wanted to give it a try. Then we have my monthly overview again, and I was checking out what color I had for the headers and realized I didn't really have anything that matched it. I didn't bring the same markers with me, so I just ended up doing a green, blue, and purple color scheme because I felt like it still kind of matched. And the idea of this one is you have as many rows as you want, which are kind of categories that you want to track. And at the end of the month, you have spaces to fill it out. And the purple at the end here is a total for the end of the year. And here you can see me messing up the paper because it is so thin and I was getting so frustrated, but it turned out fine. And the categories that I chose to track are the number of books read, total pages, average rating, physical books, which is actually going to include physical and Kindle, but basically just books that I actually read like with my eyeballs, and then audiobooks for anything I listened to, the number of books I bought, and then the end of month TBR count, so I can track if I'm making good progress each month on my physical TBR. This is another one that I feel like is pretty simple and easy to set up, but it actually looks pretty good. And again, it's one of my favorites at the end of every month to go in and fill out all of these and calculate what I read. And next is my audiobooks and Kindle read page, which is another new one for me. Again, I wanted to avoid as much bleed through with the headers as possible, so I just cut out this squiggly line from cardstock paper, folded it in half, and glued it in as carefully as I could to the journal. I wanted to make sure that it was really flush and got into that crease so that it wouldn't be lifting up or anything. And I did that for my next title page as well. Then I stuck something in between the pages so that they wouldn't stick to each other from the glue, and I put my other journal on top, and I actually just let this dry for a couple hours, and I was pretty happy. Nothing so far is lifting up, and it was all pretty flat, so I just cut off the excess and then made really simple headers. My plan for this is just to list out any books that I listen to on audio or read on my Kindle. I thought this would be fun to track just because I read most books physically, so it would be interesting to look back and see what I chose to listen to or read on my Kindle instead. Last page we're going to set up is my series tracker, which I wish I had sketched this out ahead of time because the headers are not centered, but I wanted to make this pretty much the same thing as my last series tracker, which again, inspired by Rachel Catherine, but I wanted to make it less boxy, so I just made a simple header for each series and wrote every book that's currently out in the series. And every time I read a book in a series, I can come to this page and color in the book I just read. I honestly don't know if I like this layout or the last one better, but I am happy with how it turned out. So that is my 2025 setup. Time for a quick flip through, starting with my reading goal of 80 books and my monthly favorites. Again, these look pretty boring right now, but they'll get much more colorful as they get filled in. Then we have my monthly reads and my genre tracker. My physical TBR, which I think looks 100 times better now that I actually have it filled in. I'm aware I have way too many books to read. Thankfully, I only have a few on this next page here, so honestly, I don't think I needed this third page. I actually really hope that I don't get to it, but I would much rather have extra room than run out of room at the end of the year. I'm really excited for this one and the fact that this is going to be just a living page, so every time I buy a new book, I will add it on here. If I unhaul one, I will cross it out, and every time that I read a book, I get to find it on the list and highlight it. Then we have my books read in 2025, which looks really empty and boring and will just slowly fill up throughout the year. And on here, I just like to put the book title, the author's name, and whatever I rate the book. And this will give me room for about 120 books. Then we have my 2025 new releases. The A to Z challenge, which I'm really excited for, and I think it's going to look really good when I have all the book covers printed out and glued in. And my monthly overview, which again is from Rachel Catherine. A space to track all the books I listen to on audiobook and my Kindle reads. And my series tracker, which you can see now I actually highlighted the books that I've already read. And I definitely am in the middle of way more than 5 series, so I have a lot more to fill out, but I kind of want to focus on just the ones that I'm really determined to finish. And I'm leaving myself an extra page behind this one to continue. And that is everything in my 2025 reading journal setup. Again, I'm sorry that the video quality was not always the best here. If I do this again next year, I will definitely try to improve that. But this was so much fun to make and share with you guys. So I hope that y'all enjoyed and maybe got some inspiration. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!